Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us for this amazing healing conversation on I Am She, The Journey Inward. I'm Cierra Britton with The Culture LP. I'm a curator and art advisor based in Brooklyn, New York, from Baltimore, Maryland. My focus is to help and support artists of color with a focus on Black artists, and I'm happy to be a part of this conversation with amazing Black women. I'm happy to be here with you all. This conversation came right on time. I know we're all feeling especially heavy right now with multiple things happening in our climate. And for that, I'm going to introduce Sihnuu Hetep, who is a Washington, D.C. native who started her yoga meditation journey in 2008. She's a 500-hour ERYT and Yoga Alliance continuing education provider with a focus on yoga therapy and stress transformation. She's very well versed in Hatha, Vinyasa, power, restorative, kin, comedic, spirituality, and yoga catering to sensitive and underdeserved bodies. After the passing of a loved one in 2011, self-care became an essential tool for her healing and growth. In her current practice, Sihnuu Hetep uses an open dialogue with her breath and body on the mat while applying yogic principles and meditation to her everyday life. It's her mission to share the healing power of self-exploration and self-actualization by journeying inward with her loved ones and community. On that note, I'd love to pass the mic to Sihnuu to lead us in a healing meditation.
Thank you, Sierra. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Every time we gather, it is just so powerful, so transformational for me. So I am really grateful to have this opportunity to share space with you all. I just want us to start with a simple body scan. And with a body scan, we just allow ourselves to be more open, more receptive to whatever downloads come to us in this time. I know there is a lot going on, and maybe some of us are feeling heavy, maybe some of us are feeling cluttered in our minds, but we want to set the tone just for clear space. So we're going to bring awareness to our physical bodies, our minds, and our breaths so that we can just be as open as possible and receive what we need to receive in this time. So I'd like to invite you all to close your eyes. And if closing your eyes isn't something that you prefer, you can just invite a soft gaze, just soften your eyelids. You can place your hands on your lap. If you're seated on your couch or on your floor, that's fine. But I want you to just begin to soften. And just welcome this quiet. Become an observer. And start to notice your breath. The breath is a life force, what keeps us going. And I want you to notice how it's flowing in this moment in time. Notice the temperature of your inhale. Notice the texture of your exhale. Try and notice where in your body your breath is beginning, maybe at your chest, maybe at the rib cage, maybe at the belly. And notice how your body is responding to your breath. See if you can begin to breathe with intention. We inhale for the count of 4, 3, 2, 1. Retain. And then take a big exhale out through your mouth for the count of 4, 3, 2, 1. Take 2 more cleansing breaths here. Inhaling through your nose, fill up your belly just like a balloon. Open mouth, exhale, let it all out. And this last time, I want you to see if you can let out a sound, whatever comes up. Maybe it's a sigh, maybe it's a scream. I need you to clear that space for yourself. So deep breath in. Let it out. Ha. Release. Clear that space. Come back to your breath. Notice any sensations in your physical body. Continue to inhale for the count of 4. Keep the lips sealed. Exhale out through the nose for the count of 4. Try your best to maintain that count. Inhale for 4. Exhale 4. And if the count changes, just allow for that to happen. Whatever feels organic is fine. We're just going to do a body scan here. In our body scan, we use our exhale to release any tension in our physical body. So I want you to start at the crown, releasing any muscles at the top of your head. Relax your brow. Soften your eyes inside of their sockets. Allow your ears to fall away from your head, down towards your shoulders. Release your jaw. Soften your tongue inside of your mouth. Relax the back of your neck. Relax your chest. Release your shoulders down toward your elbows. Relax the wrists, the fingers, loosen your grip. The rib cage softens, belly softens. Pelvis anchors down. So you can relax the muscles in your thighs. Relax the knees. Release your calves and your shins. Release the ankles. Release the tops of your feet, the base of your feet, and your toes. Just take a minute here on your own to scan the body, starting from the crown, noticing any areas that could use a little more tending to, sending oxygen to those tense spots to invite release. And I'm going to play a little bit of my singing pyramid for you all as you take this time to journey inward on your own. And remember, the exhale is offering you the release you need. So if you need to continue to exhale for a little bit longer in certain spots, go ahead and take that opportunity to do so. Staying with that rhythm. Breathe to invite ease. Breathe to invite receptivity. Breathe to practice trust. Release any urge to do and just allow yourself to be in these moments. Allow yourself to feel held. It's you and your breath. You're safe here. You're safe here. You can let go. Feel yourself become more and more open with each breath. Welcome yourself to the present moment in time, where you bind all obstacles, all challenges that keep you from receiving whatever it is you need to receive in this moment. Find a deep breath in and a breath out. Slowly come back to a state of consciousness, noticing sounds distant and near, feeling gentle brushes against your skin, and start to take some gentle movements, maybe wiggle your toes and your fingers, take some neck rolls, whatever feels good, a big stretch. And then come back, open your eyes, just take a moment to notice any feelings that arise for you. Thank you for taking this time to be open to this meditation, and I'm going to hand it over to Sierra. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sihnuu. That was probably the highlight of my day. I definitely am feeling so much more grounded. So thank you so much for that. So we can get kicked off, guys. Thank you so much again for being in this moment with us. Thank you for being in conversation with us. I will start off by introducing myself, and then I'll pass the mic to the rest of the ladies on the panel. Again, I'm Cierra Britton. I am from Baltimore, Maryland, and I am now living and working in Brooklyn as a curator and art consultant. So I am fully independent, self-employed. My mission in the arts is to help give a platform and shine light on artists of color in my community with a specific focus on Black artists. I like to bridge the gap between artist and patron, and I am pretty much helping to work with artists and artist initiatives with the Culture LP. And again, I'm happy to be here with you all, and I'd love to pass the mic to Attia.
Hi. I'm not on video. Seems like I need to be unmuted by the host. Oh, there we go. Hi, everyone. My name is Attia. I am so happy to be here. Thank you, Sierra and Sihnuu, for all of your beautiful work and introductions. And thanks for having me and Womanly Magazine here. I am originally from Philadelphia. I'm currently living and working in Brooklyn. My work surrounds around preventive health and sexual and reproductive health, with a specific focus on low-income Black and Brown communities, marginalized individuals. I am representing Womanly and Womanly Magazine today. We are a organization and publication that provides preventive health information and education through art, whether it be illustration, writing, poetry, any kind of visual literary art. And our goal is to provide that information for free to communities that might not have access, readily access. And we are really hoping to build a strong community, especially for Black and Brown folks. So really excited to be here, and thank you so much for having me in Womanly.
Hello. I'll wait until my video is showing. But I can go next. My name is Imani. I am a visual artist, a mother, and an admissions counselor at Pratt. I'm so excited and grateful to be here. I'm really filled with so much gratitude to be with these women. And with everyone that's joined us tonight. I am the painter to I Am She, and most of all, just kind of like the vessel for the work that I create, which is representative of my experience as a Black woman at the age of 28, moving through all that I have so far and all that I continue to. But I'm just really grateful to be here. So next, I guess Alicia will go.
Hi. So my name is Alicia DeLarge. I am a Philadelphia native. I'm also a production designer with a focus on set design and location scouting. So environments are really my life. I enjoy curating and transforming environments for a living, but I do it in many different spaces. So I've done interior design, I've done set design for film, I've done design consulting, I've worked on commercials, all types of things. So any industry that an environment is needed, I can create it. For this show, I contributed by being the set designer. So I partner with Imani, which I've never done this before. So it's been really exciting working with her and like stretching myself as an artist and a designer. But I partnered with her to basically create the environments that I thought the women in these paintings would exist in. So yeah, so that is my career and also my involvement with the show. Thank you all for being here.
Emily. So at this time, we're going to move through the show. This will be introductory to IMT for those of you all who weren't able to be present. It was such an incredible exhibit that I really was blessed to share with Alicia and Michael from the Culture LP. And so we'll just talk through some of the work. And then we'll also move through a photo series that was inspired by the work, but also timely given where we are now and trying to kind of understand how to live through and understand these archetypal designs in the stay-at-home mandate. So first we will look at Wombmxn. So me and Alicia will both talk through this. Wombmxn for me was about my journey in kind of becoming a mother. I became a mom at 24 and I wasn't quite stable all the way and all that I considered or where I considered I'd be when I did make the decision to be a mother, but I felt divinely placed to become a mother, and similar to kind of mother and child, where it's kind of like this divine calling to motherhood. I felt like my experience, I've had abortions before, and when I became pregnant this time, I knew that I had to keep it, and I had to, and this was kind of a new chapter in my life. And so this is a visual representation of, kind of that divine role change, but also, being a mother kind of in womb is still kind of the consideration of self and presenting to everyone, now I have this child in front of me, means that I have a new identity almost. And that's what that central image kind of represents for me. And that was kind of the first archetype that I chose to represent in this series. Alicia.
So when Imani originally presented the archetype of the woman to me, I too am a mother and I became a mother at 26 and it was extremely abrupt. And I was not ready for it. Not that anyone ever is, but I wasn't ready for it, like mentally, emotionally. But as Imani said, I also felt called to be a mother. And I'm also, I feel more confident in that calling in this season of my life. But when she originally presented it to me, I immediately thought, who are women in society, especially Black women? We are the nurturers, we are the carriers of society, we are the carriers of all people, all races of people, everything, I believe. And we are the creators and the nurturers of everything and everyone. And so I decided to use baskets and just woven objects in my installation, and just a whole lot of it. So also a layering effect, because I do believe as women, we are very layered as well, and multifaceted. So that's why I chose to kind of just stack baskets all around the painting to represent that. So this is the Rebel Womxn. When I was introduced with this archetype, I started off just trying to think of like where my rebellion comes from. Like my need to be rebellious comes from pain usually, or oppression. where I feel like I can't be free or I can't move or be independent in the way that I need to be. So of course, this takes you all the way back to slavery. Like, where does my anger come from as a Black woman? Like, it comes from being displaced and oppressed for so many years, even into now. So this installation kind of represents, you know, kind of like from the cotton field to the battlefield. I basically took a branch and kind of turned it into a tree that just had blood stained like pellets all over it. And I also created this lipstick bullet sash, because I feel like also in our rebellion, you know, our words are our weapon, you know, different things that we can do. I mean, we can always do different things to fight oppression, but I believe that with our words, especially as women and Black women, that is our biggest weapon. And so, yeah, so that's where the inspo came from, the lipstick sash as well. So yeah, in this season, to be honest, my rebellion has really been coming from being still and having peace. And so when I originally created this, it was a more overt rebellion. But in this season, I see how it's transformed into a more covert rebellion. So.
Yeah, so I'll talk about Lover. In Lover, when creating the piece, I think I often talk about sexuality in my work. I am a sexual being and, you know, enjoy the act, but also embody, you know, enjoy the sexiness of being a woman, you know, and enjoy what it means to truly embody my body and appreciate my curves. And, you know, I adorn myself with lipstick and, you know, just appreciate who I am, not even for the performing aspects of being a sexual being, but also just appreciating kind of the fullness of the womanly experience, and becoming sexual, and becoming kind of radically sexual and really enjoying sex and not needing to hold my sexual identity as captive to some construct or ideal, and truly owning it as my own was really what this image was about. And coming out of, you know, not also having the power in naming and defining my sexuality through what has been taught to me. And in the background, you'll see kind of Venus Hottentot. You'll see kind of the over-sexualized like video girl in the background. You'll also see a print by Carrie Mae Weems, kind of and you'll, and this image is of a woman that I identified in DC, who really does like appreciate her curves and lives loudly in them, and is, you know, and she's kind of standing above them. And I think a lot of us, at least what we see on Instagram, you know, we have the ability to really appreciate our bodies and show our bodies when we've been policed in doing so. And, you know, I just really wanted to represent the 21st century woman who is defining sexuality for herself and becoming a lover, not just to herself, but loving on, not just to others, but loving on herself. And I think Black women have really been doing that in media and art, and I'm all for it, and always have been. So yeah, that's been Lover. And I'll also talk about Free. So Free, so a little bit about the women that I've chosen per kind of painting. So the women that I chose, aren't performing these archetypes. They are actually women that I know that are truly embodying these tropes. This woman is Siobhan, who is someone I know who you can have a whole day and night with her, and she'll move through 500 different spaces and just move about the world without abandon, you know? And I think, or with abandon rather, and I've always been considerably free in my life, but I've also appreciated women who, in their being and just kind of like how they present themselves. She changes her color, her hair color often. And also just women that I've seen in New York who example and exemplify freedom. And it's been very real for me to deconstruct constructs, you know, and to stand as a woman that I naturally am, and to be that in all spaces, even white spaces, or mostly male spaces. And free kind of represents kind of that carefree Black woman that I really celebrate and love. You can go on to the next slide. I'll also be talking about Vision Wari. So the title of this painting and installation is Vision Wari. So visionary is something that we say, or someone who has a vision and sight, and someone who is a creative being. But I've always been kind of made to answer the question around Black artistry, and what does it mean to be an artist and to be a Black artist? Do I care to be named a Black artist or just an artist? And I've stood bravely and kind of powerfully in the term Black artist. Like, I am a Black woman before I am all other things, you know, like I can't deny my Blackness. When you see me, you don't see an artist or a mother or a child, you see a Black woman, you know? And as a Black woman, before my story is told and before I open my mouth, you know, I have to exist in all that you'll plague me with or you'll attach me to. And being an artist is a way that I've chosen to protest, and I've chosen to exist in the world. And the work that I create, you know, kind of talks through my rebellion and how I see the world. And it was really important to capture this artist, Sofia Dawson, who I'm in love with her and her work. But she totally embodies all that. She creates work for freedom fighters who are currently incarcerated and are leaving incarceration. And she kind of is committing her life to that, to, you know, bringing light to those men and women and others. So I chose to capture her. Yeah.
So this is the High Powered Woman of the World. So when I think about high powered woman, I automatically just thought of like a high powered businesswoman. And when Imani first presented all these paintings to me, I wanted to know exactly who these women were, like in real life, and, you know, how they lived their lives, what their careers were, like what they like to do, all these different things. And so, yeah, I believe this woman she's like a executive at Gucci or something, right? Imani?
Yeah, Fendi.
So I thought that was fire that, you know, that she can go to work like this, you know, in this painting, which is amazing because this is the way the world is now, especially in creative fields, you know? So I wanted to really represent her space as if, you know, this would be her office space. So I know a lot of the things I chose were to just kind of represent, you know, the fact that she is a high powered woman of the world. So she is, you know, she is well-traveled, she is cultured, she is a woman that can exist in many different spaces. She is a woman that can, you know, negotiate for what she needs and just see the world in a way that just creates a lot of abundance for her. So you can't see the whole entire installation, but there were just a lot of different details in this install that kind of tangibly represented even the books that I chose. Like the titles of the books that I chose are books that somebody who is high powered or who is accomplished, you know, would read and retain. So yeah, so that's what I believed, you know, the high powered woman was. Oh, and then Bruja. So Bruja was my favorite. I feel like I always like set this up first at like every location because I just loved it and it was so detailed. And for me, you know, when you first hear Bruja, it's like automatic, like, oh, well, for me, it's like witch, you know, that's the first thing you hear. And it has like a negative connotation to it. And so I wanted to do the work to not tie a negative connotation to the meaning of Bruja. A lot of my inspo came from just a lot of time that I spent in New Orleans and just thinking about who voodoo queens were back in the day. And they really were like healers. Like they were revered women, you know, in their communities. And you know, like everything else in society, they become demonized. And so, anywho, I really enjoyed this because I really just brought in a lot of really food. Like I brought in a lot of herbs and a lot of spices and just a lot of things that we use to heal ourselves. And frankly, it just made me feel, it feels very magical, you know, like women are powerful. Like we take something that's nothing and turn it into everything. And so I kind of wanted to really bring that to light in the Bruja installation, and just also, you know, just dead that negative connotation that I feel like American culture just does in general to anything Black. So yeah, so this was like my favorite install.
Yeah, so we'll move through this portion a bit quickly, but so I'm not unable to see kind of the text also. I'm not sure if full screen can happen. But so these archetypes kind of existed and kind of were born rather, while we were navigating the world in 2019-18. They were being conceptualized postpartum and brought to life, you know, in the years before. And now we're, you know, operating in a different space. And I think initially when the stay-at-home order was in place, or even when kind of the rumblings around COVID-19 happened, I kind of, with anxiety-ridden, moved to DC and was having kind of a fluctuating of emotions, mostly low, just because, you know, what does it mean for me to, you know, I think we were all just fearful and, you know, kind of consuming the news at heavy levels. And I needed to kind of do a body scan, almost as Sihnuu kind of opened this chat with, of how I felt and what way felt productive to me, because I was doing it through the therapy space kind of and trying to talk about it with family. But those are still relational spaces. And the kind of, the evolution of taking I Am She to photo space was because I don't have any of my paintings and my paint supplies here in DC. And I wanted to create, not because there's like this weird current of productivity at the moment, but I just needed to process how I felt. And art has always been my go-to to process that. And the photo series just felt, I take photos all the time, you know, like why not? And Instagram almost used as a gallery space. So this is my exploration of freedom in COVID, or kind of not in COVID, but in quarantine. And yeah, Alicia, if you want to talk about yours, you can.
Yeah. So yeah, when Imani presented this photo series, I'm not gonna lie, I was a little like, "Ooh, can I really do this?" But then I was also really excited because it was about to force me to like push through a lot of fear that I have just around producing my own things and actually sharing them with the world. But I thoroughly enjoyed this process. So for me, Carefree is, you know, I took this in my home. I just moved actually, which I'm really excited about, and got the first place I've had in like 5 years. And yeah, for me, being free is like being in my home and in my mess for real. Like, I feel like, yeah, I just like being comfortable in my space as is, you know what I mean? So even for this shoot, like I purposely didn't clean my house. Like I just wanted to feel good where I'm at, you know, because I feel like in society, we struggle with that. We're always trying to be somewhere else or be someone else or do all these different things instead of just being satisfied and content in our own space and in our season, right? So in whatever given season we're in, you know, we need to, I mean, I personally strive to be content in all seasons. And so I believe that this shoot really, really embodied that, you know? And even the dress I'm wearing, like this is a dress I found. I also sell vintage. So like this is a dress that I literally found in my pile of vintage, and it's my junior prom dress. And I, you know, I haven't tried to put it on in years or anything. And so it just felt very freeing, you know, because ever since having my son, I have been, you know, just trying to be more comfortable with who I am as a woman and just Alicia. And I feel like all that was symbolic in this shoot from the dress that I was able to wear. And I'm turning 31 tomorrow, and I could wear this dress I wore 15 years ago. So I'm hyped about that. And yeah, and just my space being messy but beautiful, and just me, and just being, you know, being in my comfort zone and being carefree is what this all shows. So yeah.
Yeah. Happy early birthday.
Thank you.
So right now, I know I'm sure everyone's seeing a blue line. We're gonna just take the presentation off and then take it back on quickly, so that the blue line hopefully doesn't live there. And we're also gonna move through this rather quickly because I know we're also moving in on time. Yeah, I will share my screen actually. Enter full screen. Escape. Sorry for the technical difficulties. Appreciate your patience while this brief transitioning is happening. I'll need ability to share my screen. But we can also, the blue line is gone, so we can move through the next one quickly. This was Lover. I'll kind of just say a quick sentence about Lover in this time. I think immediately, funny story, me and my brother, we're talking a lot about, you know, because kind of when you're stripped of nothing, you're stripped of kind of outside engagement, you're stripped of like the ability to connect with potential as a single woman, you know, like potential love connections, or and of work, and like having to do kind of your daily routine. You're left with, what do I want? You know, like, what do I need? What is important to me? And I guess also like a loneliness too, that you kind of are moving through. And me and my brother challenged each other to get on Hinge. And so we did a quarantine bay search, you know? And then, you know, and that felt like old behavior for me. You know, I think when I go through kind of avoided a place where I experience void or lack or whatever, I seek it in someone else and in conversations to kind of busy my mind. And I checked myself on that very quickly, because I just found that like the relationships weren't blooming in the ways that I wanted, or like the content of the conversations got really weird, and it's like, I don't really know you, you know, like, and I just chose to do something with the love I usually get, you know, and poured it back to myself. I bought lingerie from a friend of mine who has a vintage shop, and bought some lingerie on Etsy, and just really, you know, like started loving on myself again. And that was most important to me.
Mm-hmm. So for me, in this season of my life, I haven't really been in the space of like a sensual love with myself or even with others. Well, I should say, when I created this, I wasn't in that space. And I was more so in this season of like really focusing on like learning how to love myself, because I wasn't really loving myself like I should have. And so learning how to focus on loving myself and my son, to be honest. Because once again, when I became a mother, I wasn't this like super hype, warm and fuzzy, excited mom. I really struggled with, you know, like being okay with being a mom and being a single mother at the age that I was, and with the career that I wanted to have and the goals that I had. So it's actually been like really freeing and beautiful to like actually learn how to love my son and like enjoy him, and be okay with that. So that's been the season that I'm in. So I basically put together a set that represented all the ways I'm loving myself during quarantine. So like every single thing within this set is something that I've been doing or reading or practicing. And yeah, and so this is a picture of me and my son, because I've been learning how to love this boy, and it's been fun. So that's the Lover for me.
Yeah, for everyone with kids during this time, blessings to you. It's a struggle. This is woman during our time. And again, I think this is also just like adding to what Alicia said. You know, we're having to be with families for long periods of time, whether it's mother, sister, brother, cousin, or self, or children. And woman just was about, you know, being with family in this time. And what does that mean? So yeah, back in DC.
Yeah. And then even for me, I like basically picked all the different locations that I nurture my son in. And so I just represented that through this photo series. So that's it. I know we gotta move on.
Yeah. And this was just my response also to Bruja in the moment on the left, and then High Powered Woman of the World on the right, just talking about traveling within and exploring, you know, the deeper parts of yourself for those of us who are connected to travel and being outgoing. You know, like there's still a lot of travel we can do, and we can honor that. I also lost some people really close to me during this time, and you know, Bruja for me, I called on actually Sihnuu to like help me with an altar and like consider, you know, the ways we didn't quite move through that all the way, but and also another friend, Wilson, who just like supported me with like tapping into the ancestral realm, you know, and the ability to not mourn those who we lose regularly and traditionally. So, you know, like that was huge for me to move through that right now.
So this was the Rebel Womxn for me. And I mentioned earlier that me being rebellious in this season is like choosing to have peace and choosing to be still. And this is the grocery store that's at the corner from my house. So this is the grocery store I go to, you know, every time I need to go grab food. And I just wanted to depict this time at the beginning of quarantine where I went to go get flowers, because that's something I do for myself every Sunday. I buy myself fresh flowers. And everybody was just so annoyed with the fact that I was buying fresh flowers that was in the store, because everybody was very intense, rightfully so. But I think that it was almost like I was kind of like even disconnected in a way to the tension until I walked in the store, because I have kind of created this bubble of peace that I have. And anyway, I just noticed how in this moment it became contagious, because when I did explain to the woman why I was buying flowers, she ended up buying herself some, and other women in the store bought flowers. So I just wanted to do this shoot to kind of depict that moment that I experienced, and to also just show like there is a way to still, you know, mourn the people that we're losing and the mistreatment and just the horrific things that are happening in the world. But I think that it's very important to still create space and to still be intentional about the peace that we can create in our homes and in the spaces that we can control. Because just because it's outside doesn't mean we have to bring it in. And it doesn't mean that you're not honoring either if you choose not to be fearful. So I just wanted to kind of depict that in this photo. So. Oh, and this was my High Powered Women of the World. So yeah, when I feel the most powerful is when I'm creating. So when I'm building a set, or when I'm shopping for furniture to put in a set or an environment or what have you. Even when I'm interacting with my clients, like I feel extremely powerful, extremely confident in what I'm doing. And so I wanted to also depict that visually. So this is a ruin that I love to death. I go here often, even when I was younger, just to like hang out, do whatever. And yeah, this was a space that really inspired a lot of my career. And so I wanted to go back here and actually shoot here. And on the clothesline, I kind of hung everything I've created that I actually have pictures of. So this is like mostly like my senior thesis projects I worked on in school. And even Caleb's up there because he's like the best thing I ever created as well. So yeah, so this is my High Powered Woman of the World.
I wanted to also add that when we're going to have a Q&A portion, feel free to populate the chat with questions as well that we'll return to at another point. We'd love to answer them after kind of a more staged Q&A. these two images are the last images I created. My true rebellion is not postable. I'm sure a lot of us are feeling heavy. You know, Cierra spoke to this in the beginning of the combo. You know, not just with being at home, but also noting that police brutality is still happening while at home, you know, and, you know, Black bodies are still, you know, fading rapidly through COVID and kind of directly and abruptly. And I don't necessarily am in the front of marches. I've committed my life to uplifting and being a change agent as an educator and as an artist through all that I say. But I'm definitely, you know, militant if we break down and have a conversation. So I don't necessarily find it relevant for me to share or to politicize how I operate on IG sometimes, you know, because I am, you know, I have no other choice but to be political as a Black woman. So my second image was just like representing me and my daughter, because I actually was inspired through the photo series through Carefree Black Girl, who's an incredible Black photographer, if you haven't already seen her work. And this is from her kitchen table series. And this is just also kind of just like a love and ode to my daughter, because, you know, I'm also just recognizing the ephemerality of life and how fragile life is. And, you know, I want to kiss, you know, life into her every day as we're growing closer together. So, yeah. Das ist es. That is it. So this is the Q&A portion that will open up with Sihnuu, Alicia, Cierra, and Tia. So.
Thank you so much. I am just so taken aback by that presentation. I am thankful for you two for walking us through that and kind of sharing your process and where you were mentally in those moments, what you were thinking about. I'm sure a lot of us as Black women can relate to those stories represented in that artwork. So for that, I appreciate it. We're gonna open the floor up for Q&A, and this will go back and forth between Attia and I, and I'll start. I'll be happy to pass the mic to Attia once we get to certain questions. So my first question for you two would be, with the 7 archetypes that you've laid out for us and thinking of the chakras that are in all of us, could you shine light on the parallels between the energy centered within us and the personas that you've decided to illustrate and bring to life through this series?
So it's interesting, when I was originally studying chakras was at the like last year when we first started this process. And so I actually originally produced a whole show based off of, well, I drew a whole show that was based off of like the energy, like the chakra energy connection to the archetypes. So I'm not gonna lie, I'm a bit disconnected from it, but I did find my notes from last year when I originally thought about the show. And so I'm, just to be short, I'm gonna go through like what chakras I linked to each archetype. So for the visionary, I had linked the 6th chakra, which is the 3rd eye. And so for that, I had chosen the color indigo, because the point was I was going to actually run like lines, like actual extension cords of these colors to like each charging station. For the Bruja, I had chose the crown chakra. Oh, I'm sorry. So for people that aren't familiar with chakras, the 3rd eye represents intuition, foresight. It's driven by openness and imagination. And so I linked that to the visionary. For the Bruja, I picked the 7th chakra, which is the crown. It represents higher consciousness and divine connection. For the high powered woman of the world, I had chosen the solar plexus. That is a 3rd chakra. It represents self-esteem, willpower, and personal responsibility. For the woman, I chose the root chakra, which is the first chakra. And for that, I did choose the color red to represent that. And that's basically about foundation and just how we build the foundation we build our lives off of, which is totally from, a woman, birth, creation, all that. So then for the lover, I chose the second chakra, which is the sacral. I don't know if I said that right, but I hope I did. And that's all about sexual and creative energy, which is fun. And then the carefree, I chose the fourth chakra, which is all about self-love. And for the Rebel Womxn, which is the last one, I chose the fifth chakra, which is the throat chakra, which is the ruler of communication, which goes back to like the lipstick bullet chash and everything that I put in the install. So that's just a quick answer to that.
Thank you for that.
Mm-hmm.
Imani, do you have anything you'd like to touch on?
No, I just keep it short and sweet. That was beautiful.
Got you. Okay, moving forward. So I'd love to hear from both of you on how the series has evolved, specifically with how the photo series component is driving the project and approaching Midnight 9 moving forward.
Yeah, so I'll speak to that initially. So I spoke a little bit about in the presentation, but I think I just kind of while being at home, needed a structured way to go inward, and this is all. And so I actually saw a video today of just like someone that I knew from Banneker from high school, and she was just talking about, she was looking at all these interviews of, her name is Shelby, but she was looking at all these interviews of artists, trying to figure out her essence, or just like looking at like these renowned artists, and through it, she found herself, and she was just like, what held true was things that she had within. And so oftentimes, we kind of can look to others for inspiration, but, I just kind of went through some shit that I already did, to kind of go inward. And she was and is a toolkit for me to kind of navigate my life, because the idea was for these archetypes to kind of be physical representations for us to remind ourselves to engage with our multiplicity. And while at home and without distraction, like I needed again to remind myself of all that I am, because I just, when I came home, became a mother again, a mother kind of all the time. And then I became a daughter and a sister, and I'm the youngest. So I fell back into those tropes or just those ways of being. And I just kind of had to key in and refocus and recenter.
Mm-hmm.
And so that kind of is how I explored I am she now.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing. That. So pivoting, considering the amount of time we've all been at house given the pandemic, and especially people in hotspots, and spending that time at home as a result of coronavirus, how have you found yourself leaning on the archetypes as a way of centering yourself? Have you called on any of these different tropes, or are they coming out in response to certain things that we're dealing with, like you just touched on a little bit?
Alicia?
I think I've definitely called on these archetypes and also embodied them, especially because we did do this photo series, but just in like everyday life, I would say, the woman and the lover I've really been focusing on, as far as just actually setting things in place to like physically love myself and like emotionally love myself. And not just talking about it or like, oh, I want to do this or do that, but like actually being intentional about it and getting it done. Like just going to buy myself flowers. That's something I always wanted to do. And now I'm like actually physically practicing it, and it makes a difference in my day and in my life. And even in reference to loving my son, just having that time, like all my jobs got canceled for the rest of the year when this happened.
Mm-hmm.
And frankly, instead of being sad, I was actually glad because I needed a break. And then this is just giving me all this time back with my son that I lost, you know, from being in school and working so much. So I just believe that these archetypes have come up for me with almost without me even thinking about it. Even thinking about the high powered women of the world, the visionary, like these shoots were a huge deal for me. And just in reference to producing something that I wanted to produce that wasn't for a client, that wasn't for, you know, something empty, and to really be able to create it and create this quality and really like just share it with people. And so I think that even in that, like I got present to my procrastination, got present to, you know, just how I put things off and how like things that just block my abundance, you know? So I just believe that, yeah, those three archetypes I just mentioned were like, are at the forefront of my life right now in this season, being in quarantine.
Thank you for that. I'm going to pass the mic over to Attia to ask some questions.
Hi again. First of all, thank you so much, Imani and Alicia. You are so beautiful, and thank you for your vulnerability, your light, your presentness. It's a really difficult time, and to be able to lend yourself and your work to this space is really amazing. So thank you for that. I really want to talk about motherhood and how it's changed right now in this moment of being in the pandemic. You both spoke about your experience, you know, becoming mothers and how that changed you, and how, I'm curious as to like what you're learning right now that maybe is an opportunity of motherhood. I know that Alicia, you mentioned more time with your son. I would love to hear more about like, I know that, you know, being a mother right now during this time is really difficult because there's like less childcare and different things are kind of shaken up. So I want to hear more about, I don't know, what maybe was positive about this experience.
So I think, well, just to speak to like, I guess how like my mothering, I guess, has changed in this season. I'm trying to think. Right, I've been wanting to focus on having more time with my son, but when I say time, like not just being in the room with him, you know, like being like, because I notice like I'll be in the room with him and be on my phone, you know what I mean, for like an hour, and it's just like, that's not, we tell ourselves we're spending time with our kids, but we're not. Like, you know, it's about like just pushing myself to actually like shut things off and just like play a game with him or like engage with him and not let my work come first or things like that, you know, like taking walks with him and honestly, truly filling myself up, right, for him, because that's something I realized I wasn't doing for a long time. And so I would always be like a short fuse, and I'm always irked, and I'm always like, have a seat, be quiet, all these things. And in this season of like rest, right, and stillness, I've noticed how I've been able to fill myself up, right, and even calling on my community, like letting my pride down and being able to call my parents, like, I need y'all to take him for 2 days so I can just fill myself up and miss him, you know, like, miss him and want to be around him and want to love on him, you know? And I believe that in this season, I've been working on that. And so it's created a different quality of life for me and my son. And even spiritually, you know, I've been getting closer to the Lord, you know, in my quiet time. And I believe that also fills me up in a different way where I'm able to be present for my son. And I'm totally not, you know, I'm not perfect. It's not amazing as I want it to be, but it's a start. And it's also one of the reasons why I am grateful for this season, as painful as it is, as ridiculous as it is. You know, these are the positive, these are like the silver linings, you know, in this season for me as a mother.
Yeah. I think what has been made real for me is my bandwidth. You know, like I knew very early on before I had Zola that I wasn't going to be the baby food making mom. Like, I am not her, she is not me. I am very fine if I had a stay-at-home partner, you know, like that would be lovely for me in terms of like the parenting dynamic, you know, like I think I love my daughter fiercely, and I'm so grateful as an educator for educators, you know, in that space. And I think similar to Alicia, just having to be cautious and thoughtful about my temperament. Because, you know, like in this time, I think you're not well, you're not okay, you know, or I haven't been okay, I haven't been well through losses and just experiencing all that I've consumed passively and directly. And then having to wake up and go to sleep and you know, make meals and talk to a toddler who doesn't understand anything, you know. I've been really challenged to work through stress and anger differently because I have to outwardly face someone often. And I think it's been soft for me to hear from my therapist, and even I'm in an art therapy program now, just like the thought around the good enough mother. Like Zola is alive, she is eating, she has clothes, she is loved on by family. I have to tell her that I'm not well and that I'm sad and that I'm angry or that I'm going through my own stuff, you know, and I don't want to example to her perfection because no one else will, and she will soon have her own waves of emotions, and she shouldn't consider that her waves of emotions are problematic because she's seen her mother be different, you know. And so I'm just being supremely honest with my daughter for real. You know,
that's
like,
amazing.
Yeah,
that's incredible. And throughout all of this, I mean, you talk about, you know, nurturing yourself to nurture your children, considering the archetypes, Wari and High Powered Woman in the world. How are you nurturing the sides of yourself that crave output and productivity during this phase that causes you to be super still? And you know, I know you were both very productive and artful, and all of everyone's, you know, routines and resources have been like scaled way down. So how is that impacting your creative process and your outputs?
Well, for me, I'm used to having like no budgets for stuff. So I feel like I'm like the queen of like, right, taking nothing and making a whole set out of it. So even with this challenge, right, to like do this project, and for me being a set designer, I want to lead with environments as far as like, this is my high powered, you know, businesswoman thing. And yeah, just seeing how I was able to really just pull from my home, right? Like pull things from my house that I could use, and just like really being content with that. Like that was work for me, you know, to like really just be okay with what I have and what I'm creating in this moment, and pushing through a lot of things to do so. So yeah, so I feel like my productivity has been, I guess I've been like gracious with my productivity in this season. So like being okay if I'm super productive and right, doing all these shoots in like 2 days, or being okay if I took a week to just get into it or to connect with it, you know. Just kind of just being kind to myself I guess like just in this season, trying to be kind to myself with my productivity.
Yeah. I've never pushed like the need to work hard, you know, like my close friends know that I'm an easy button pusher, you know, and I love seasons of stillness, and I'm an outgoing homebody, you know, so I wasn't challenged with needing to be in anybody's club or restaurant or happy hour. And my life looks differently because I'm a single mom, you know, or a co-parenting mom rather. But I think what's been really loving for me, and I know Sihnuu is a part of this conversation as well, but like talking to other high-powered women and like moving, like having a safe co-working space with women that I really, or people that I really care for, and not even just women, like my brother, we live in the same home in DC, and having many conversations with him that extend beyond the immediate, you know? And I think that's a way that I'm being able to like stimulate my mind and way of being, or stimulate the part of me that thirsts for something external or external movement. And I think we've made productivity so normalized, you know, and especially kind of in the fabric of America. And I think a lot of us are being made to question what's really important, you know, and if I need to be out all the time, you know, or if I have all that I need at home and in familial spaces. And even if I need to consume all the energy that I do when I am in these external spaces, you know, like, and I talk about it often, but there, you know, with my close friends, but like there will be a new normal in the way that we spend our dollars and what we do. I at least hope, you know, but in the ways that we feed ourselves. And I think we're all going to have to like readjust these personas, these archetypes through this now and after. And yeah.
Incredible. So profound. I'm actually going to ask a question from an audience member. So I am so sorry if I mispronounce your name. Sofia West asks, women of color specifically make up the majority of those deemed essential workers during this COVID pandemic. How do you both imagine incorporating them in relation to the archetypes you've portrayed through your work?
Wow.
Amazing question.
Amazing question.
Sofia is also an essential worker. Blessings to her. I think initially when this all happened, I sent her a lot of texts, you know, and I wasn't trying to inundate her because I'm sure her text message was flooding with people worrying about her, you know, being at the hospital and like, you know, being an RN. And I think I feel out of my place to say how anyone could move through this that is on the front lines. You know, I couldn't imagine being in spaces where you see mortality, you know, like, as you know, or people dying and having to deal with the stress of this often and daily, and then having to return home and then remember all that you are, and what even makes sense to show up to, and what conversations you can even metabolize, you know, given your full day. And I think it's important to, I mean, I'm almost it's hard to say how I could frame that answer. I love you, Sofia. Sorry for not really answering, but.
Yeah, like when I hear this question, it makes me, it's almost like a call to action for me, to be honest. Like it makes me, my mind is already thinking about, how I can incorporate them into the, you know, the mission of I Am She, right? And tying them into the archetypes in this season. But I agree with Imani. I feel like, you know, we both aren't essential workers. And so I can't really speak to what they're dealing with or what they're going through. But I know that the people in my community that are essential workers, like I have been loving them just through giving, whether it's a kind word, whether it's me dropping off something at their house, whether it's me, you know, just in whatever way I can love on them and give to them. That's what I've been doing. But Sofia, this is a call to action for me. So I feel like I want to get your info so I can let you know what I'm going to do moving forward. But thanks for challenging me like that, for real.
Yeah. I mean, and I would also add that in the small things, give to yourself, you know, in the small things, give to yourself. My therapist challenged me, like, you may not have a whole weekend to yourself, but like, listen to your favorite song today.
Yes.
You know, like, or dance if you can, have sex if you got a bed, you know, you know, or like masturbate or do whatever you need.
Yes.
Give to yourself. I think I Am She is a 7-figure structure to navigate it. But honestly, in all ways that you can, even in minutes, give to yourself. And that's all that.
Incredible. Thank you so much. I'm going to pass it back to Cierra to close us out and answer any more questions.
Thank you. And thank you again for this conversation. I am really feeling full from hearing this dialogue between you ladies. So I appreciate it. A question that I have for everyone, and Sihnuu, Attia, feel free to weigh in on this because I'm sure this is something that we can relate to. We touched a little bit on earlier with the climate of our people, specifically Black people, having to deal with police brutality, and we are all mourning as a community and feeling the heaviness of that. And I want to ask, how are you nurturing the rebel within you with these times when things feel futile or in vain?
I'll give this question to Sihnuu or Attia.
I'll go for that one. Well, I have not slowed down. I think my way of fighting back is working. Like I take care of myself and I do get stressed, but I know every day I wake up like this is my purpose to do this work. And like, almost as if I was going to war, like I know that I am willing to die to like bring this information and freedom and liberty and, wow, that sounds too American. Justice through healthcare and just all those things that like really, really provide peace to Black people in this country. So I'm fighting, and I'm not gonna stop. I just know it. I might take a quick vacation here and there, but I just can't stop because this is so vital, and we're just we're moving through time, and it might not seem like it, but we are pushing forward. There are movements happening. It's evident tonight that we are working and we're making strides in terms of liberating our people. So.
Got you.
I would say that I'm definitely being a little less candid, less censored about, the things I share, particularly on my platform. Also with the people that I work with, and just setting certain boundaries that I had in the past, being in the wellness community and being an anomaly. It's like at one point I was just grateful for any opportunity. But now I've placed myself at a higher value, and I'm saying no to these potentially large clients because I'm feeling more certain about my offerings now that I've had this time to really sit with myself and just recall what my gifts are and what I have to share. So just rebelling by fully embodying who I am and being more discerning. Sorry, it was like a moth next to me or something. Being more discerning about how I'm offering myself and, really positioning myself with women that, in spaces with women that look like me and that are walking a similar walk and can benefit from what I have to give. So, yeah.
Thank you. And you're definitely sharing your gift. I felt that in the meditation, so I appreciate it.
Thank you.
So, given time, I am going to close out with a question from an audience member. The question is, how have the archetypes influenced your personal self-love practices? Do you have specific archetypes that speak more to your personal love languages? And
is this just for anybody? I definitely feel like two of them in particular have been speaking to me more as of late, and that those two are the love one and the free one. And I think that, I love, I was like raising the roof when y'all were talking about chakras. I was like, yes, like this is so great. You know, it can, you know, it makes it accessible to someone like me who kind of like looks at life through those energy centers and kind of relates certain situations to those energy centers. And I know, again, I go back to being an anomaly in my field. And for a long time, it was really hard for me to post certain images of myself because I didn't want to be hypersexualized. And this was before Black women really got onto Instagram. And I was using Instagram to create classes for myself because I wasn't getting hired at studios. So I started using my Instagram. I started hosting classes in the park, and I started hosting classes in people's dining rooms, just anywhere I can get. And, but what I was cutting off, you know, for myself was that part that connected to my sensual self, because I wanted to be taken seriously, because I was the Black woman in this space, you know, and people were already looking at me. But now, you know, I'm grateful for women like Imani who embrace themselves fully. And I understand that this is a serious part of who I am. My sensuality, like, you know, your sacral center is your seat of creation. It's like, we don't just give birth to, you know, life, we give birth to ideas. And if we're not embodying ourselves fully, then we're cutting a part of that process of creation off completely. So I got a full length mirror, okay? And I was, you know, I did my little sunbathing, and I'm, you know, I'm looking in my mirror more. And I'm also realizing that in this social distancing, that my, the intimacy that I crave is not always from a man. You know, I love affection for my sisters. You know, it fills me in a different way. And again, like I always talk about how me and Imani, if you see our text threads, we're like, I love you. I'm so grateful for you. Like Imani will send me an Instagram message at 5 a.m. talking about I love you, and I will see it 4 minutes later. I don't know why. I'm up, I'm awake. It really sparks something in my spirit where it keeps, it's almost like, you know, you think about a baby being born and how you have that skin to skin contact, and it really doesn't end. Like you need that for survival, to feel held. I always talk about feeling held, and those are the two, just circling back, because I can go on and on, but just going back to which archetypes I feel connected to during those times is that freedom and the love. And I feel like the two go hand in hand. So, yeah.
Yeah, shout out to Imani Warmth and Love, because I've experienced it too. It's absolutely amazing. It's awesome. That's it. That's it.
I think Sihnuu answered that question quite perfectly. But I think honestly, I just want to send appreciate to you all for being here. I know, you know, there's a lot of things happening during this time to be in and participate in, kind of in that same note of needing to be productive, and your choice to be here really means a lot. Even to my fellow co-hosts, you know, like, thank you for giving this hour and a half to being here. Alicia, thank you so much for saying yes.
Of course.
You know, Attia, thank you for saying yes. Sihnuu, thank you for saying yes. Cierra, thank you for saying yes. Michael, we now have like a 5+ year relationship. Thank you for seeing me and loving on me. And actually like probably 6 years. Michael is running the presentations. But thank you and love you all. I don't have to be the closing word, but for you all to believe in the work that I create, you know, it means a lot to me. And for you to be a part of these conversations, to push our agenda forward, not even agenda, but our livelihood forward, really is meaningful to us. And I think for my daughter and Alicia's son, you know, and your future children or non-children, you know, like your cousins and nieces and nephews. So you're doing the work by just participating and being present. And I love you. Thank you. Cierra's gonna take us home.
appreciation for everyone being present with us. Oh, I'm sorry. Was I muted? Did y'all hear me? Okay, I'm gonna start over. Thank you, everybody, for just being in this space with us. I'd love to echo that and just send love and participating in community, participating in dialogue, and participating in self-preservation and the preservation of our community means so much in this moment. I am grateful to have been a part of this project. Shout out to Culture LP family. Everybody, you are all amazing. Thank you. Everyone take deep breaths before you go to sleep tonight. Drink your water and listen to your favorite song. So thank you, everybody. Good night.
Masturbate, girl. Masturbate.
It is important for your mental health. To release. You have to release what's built up, period. Love you all.
Thank you.
Love you.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.